What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about the Acclamator-II class assault ship, a relatively obscure successor to one of the Republic's most important capital ships. Nearly all of its stats are the same, being manufactured by Rathana Heavy Engineering, the subsidiary of Kuat Drive Yards, who would later produce the Imperial-class Star Destroyers, and had the same 1200 km/h top speed, putting it in between the Z-95 Headhunter and a TIE Interceptor. It also retained the absurdly fast Class 0.6 hyperdrive, which was faster than any other capital ship used by the Republic and the Empire. But there are some very important differences in the armament, complement of vehicles, its crew, and the amount of clone troopers on board. Here are the stats for the Acclamator-I, but its successor packed on twice as many quad turbo laser cannons, but completely cut out the point defense cannons, and dropped down to just a pair of proton torpedo launch tubes. The complement of vehicles was reduced to just 64 speeder bikes, 10 ATTEs, 16 LAAT gunships, and 18 self-propelled heavy artillery. The crew is where there was one of the biggest differences, going from 700 up to 20,141, which is nearly 3 times that of the Venator. And it dropped the amount of troops all the way down to just 3,200 from the impressive 16,000 of its predecessor. It had a cargo capacity of 10,000 tons, a weight equal to 6,060 Rancors, which provided the crew and troops with enough supplies to last for up to 2 years out at space. This successor was created for the sole purpose of carrying out orbital bombardments, making it a more focused version of the Acclamator, which itself was built with the purpose of carrying out a tactic known as Base Delta Zero, in which they would bombard a planet until every structure, form of life, and even all of the natural resources were completely evaporated. Though no cross-section of this ship exists, the interior was described as taking out 80% of the troop areas to make room for all the fuel reserves and power generators for those 12 extra quad turbo lasers. This made the Acclamator-II better suited for orbital bombardments than the Venator, but because it was made towards the end of the Clone Wars, there were only a few of these that were ever produced, especially with the Empire wanting to switch over to the Imperial Star Destroyer. We saw in the Acclamator video how these noble Republic vessels were reduced to transports and slave ships, with some controlling systems where the Empire didn't want to waste an ISD. So I imagine that the Acclamator-II mostly fulfilled this latter role, terrifying citizens into submission with the fear of complete planetary destruction. So that's it for its history, and the only cool behind the scenes fact is that it was introduced in the novel Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor, being further expanded upon in the Star Wars trading card game and the official Star Wars and Vehicles Collection 35. But I also want to point out that there's a lot about this ship that doesn't really make a lot of sense. I can understand the loss of the point defense laser cannons, but the jump from a 700-man crew to 20,141, a nearly 30 times increase, doesn't seem justifiable at all. You can't even say that there were more engineers for all the ships, or janitors to clean up after all the cloned passengers, as both the vehicle and trooper complement is way less than its predecessor. There is also an Acclamator-III, but these really just show up in fanfiction and some video game mods. Well, that's it for the Acclamator-II, but most important of all, remember, if you see an Imperial Acclamator, you're either about to be enslaved or about to be glassed. And the Force will be with you. Always.